do you see how it looks to some people that there's one rule for you in terms of being able to claim this stuff that other people don't have access to?
Well, I think that's why the rules are there to declare it. But look, every day...
Do you get it, though?
Every day...
I want to show you an absolutely shameful and disgusting interview with Keir Starmer where a journalist constantly caught him lying and ridiculed him all over the country. Even she was getting impatient with the fact that he was always avoiding clear answers to questions and making excuses for all the gifts he had received. By the way, he didn't even apologize for it.
Britain's global standing. We're determined to improve it. Determined to repair Britain's brand as an open, outward-looking, confident, trading nation. But we've also got to look at regulation across the piece. And where it is needlessly holding back the investment, we need to take our...
Keir Starmer is very fond of talking about the extremely bleak future of our country. He often accuses the Conservative Party of leaving the country in ruins and wasting huge amounts of money. At the same time, he proposed to improve the economy by building more prisons. It sounds terrifying, and I'm not kidding. In fact, every statement he makes me uneasy. Starmer promised to save the economy, that is the oligarchs, and impose exorbitant taxes on ordinary people to ensure their safety. And if people start protesting against such a policy, he will say that no one is asking our opinion and he knows exactly what is best. Making economic reforms using the prison method is nonsense and completely unlike democracy. I was shocked when I heard that.
In the general election, you campaigned on a message of change, of doing politics differently and making yours a government of service. And yet you find yourself caught in a row over the huge amount of freebies you've accepted while leader of the opposition, £107,000, far more than any other MP. Do you acknowledge that this has undermined your message and reputation, and are you sorry about that?
Well, I think it's important just to put it in its context. Any gift or donation to a politician has to be declared.
Keir Starmer refused to apologise for accepting expensive gifts, claiming that he had done nothing wrong. He said he accepted donations for housing for his son, who was studying for his final exams. Starmer said that ministers would no longer accept donations for clothes, but left the option of getting tickets to events, such as a Taylor Swift concert. This behaviour causes shocking bewilderment. He also refused to apologise for not disclosing information that the payment for his wife's clothes, including the services of a personal stylist and fitting, was made by Lord Ollie. However, this behaviour looks hypocritical, especially considering that Starmer promised to clean up British politics from corruption.
Everything I've had has been declared, and sitting behind the numbers are some human explanations. So quite a lot of that money was for tickets for football matches. I pay for my own tickets at Arsenal. I've got season tickets. Unfortunately, I can't sit in the stand anymore for security reasons. And the club have said, well, in which case, be our guest in the director's box if and when there's space. Now, no money changes hands. You can't buy a ticket. But then the register says, well, what's the amount that would be the equivalent, even though you didn't buy the ticket? And that has to be declared.
Yes.
Now, that means if I didn't do that, I couldn't go to Arsenal. I go with my boy.
Keir Starmer escaped the investigation, perhaps due to the influence of Lord Ollie. He was supposed to declare all the gifts and donations he received, but did not do so. It's unfair. Many hoped that he would resign.
Second example I'll just give you is some of that money was for the loan of a flat during the election period. No money changed hands.
Yes, and that was related to your son.
Yeah, there was no cash adjustment. We had a situation where the election was called, not when we expected it, I think most people. My son happened to be in the middle of his GCSEs. That means there are a lot of journalists outside the front door and in the street. I'm not complaining about that, but if you're 13, as my girl is, if you're 16, as my boy is, that's quite hard to navigate when you're concentrating on GCSEs. Now, hear me out, because you put it to me.
Yeah.
I am shocked that he spent millions of pounds on preparing his son for exams. It looks like an excuse and an absurdity. It is unlikely that the Prime Minister's son would not have passed the exams whether he was preparing or not. I cannot understand how such huge sums can be spent when there are serious problems with education and healthcare in the country. This is simply unacceptable.
So I said, we're going to get you out of here and get you somewhere where you can just study and get to school and back without having to go through all of that. And that's when someone said, well, in which case I can make this flat available to you. It's safe, secure, he can get on with the job. No money exchanged hands, no money exchanged hands, but for the registrar, no, but you put it to me, let me just finish. But for the registrar's purposes, he says, well, I know you didn't pay and nobody gave you money, but let's work out what it would have been worth if it had been a commercial transaction, which it wasn't.
The Prime Minister advised people who receive allowances to look for work while renting a luxury apartment for his son so that he could study in peace. In June and July, Starmer rented a luxury apartment for his son while he talked about the need to live more modestly because of the crisis in the country. Who is he trying to fool? A few chatty neighbors behind the wall is not the most burdensome distraction for a teenager who is studying. I resent the idea that this luxury was an urgent necessity for his son. I could calmly study for exams under normal conditions so that a student can tolerate noise from neighbors. Aside, the idea that final exams are very important, especially for the Prime Minister's son, is complete nonsense. Exam results rarely determine the fate of any child, and even more so whose father is the most influential person in the country. The good father would do everything in his power to help his children move forward. Obviously, that's exactly what Starmer was doing here, but his government plans to impose VAT on tuition fees at private schools, which will make tuition unaffordable for some families. He sincerely believes that he has done nothing wrong.
Do you see how it looks to some people that there's one rule for you in terms of being able to claim this stuff that other people don't have access to?
Well, I think that's why the rules are there, to declare it. But look, every day...
Do you get it, though?
Every day...
Do you get how it looks?
If you're putting to me, Beth, that I should have stayed in my Kentish Town home and disrupted my son's GCSEs, that was the right thing to do, then I think you should put that to me.
OK. Well, you're saying that you shouldn't have stayed in the home because you wanted to protect your boy.
I wanted him to be able to do his GCSEs, and any parent would have made the same decision. I don't wake up every morning thinking about that. I wake up every morning thinking I've got a mandate to change the country. I've got a mandate to improve living standards.
Starmer, known for his love of freebies, has long demonstrated his inability to live modestly. It is not surprising that he receives expensive gifts because 15 years ago he signed a tax-free pension deal. While the government is cutting winter fuel payments for retirees, Starmer is choosing which gifts to accept and which to refuse. He accepted everything: tickets to the National Theatre, to the Christmas ball, new designer glasses. Starmer has always considered himself an exception. He spent about £50,000 a year on personal expenses. He also spent more than £160 on a car with a driver in London, despite the fact that he lived nearby. He also spent money on first or business class flights. These expenses exceeded his salary many times. Starmer is a true master of spending money without thinking about the consequences for ordinary people.
There might be human reasons for it, but do you understand the optics of it? When you are the Prime Minister that said you were going to do politics differently, it looks like you're claiming loads of freebies.
Well,
do you get it, even if you don't agree with it?
I've given you my explanation, and I can't improve on that. If people think that my decision to try and protect my son's GCSEs was the wrong one, they're free to do so.
There's lots of other things in that, but it's not.
Keir Starmer really likes to talk about family and present himself as a good person. But in fact, everything he says is a blatant lie. He likes to come up with facts about his past and childhood to create this image of a national favourite. However, he is very bad at it. He said that his father worked in a factory and his mother was a nurse and that the family lived in poverty. He probably said this in order to justify his radical actions to cancel winter payments. He said his family had been living without electricity for months due to lack of money. And they also allegedly ate very poorly. But then I found out a very interesting detail. So in fact, his father owned the factory where he worked, and the family could afford to pay the bills and eat well. And Starmer never had any problems growing up. Yes, they didn't live super rich, but they never lived poor either. Though in general, Starmer has always earned well, and as it became known, he has been receiving huge amounts of money from rich sponsors for a long time. He is a hypocrite who has nothing to do with the real leader of the Labour Party. He has no right to claim that he understands the plight of millions of people. It disgusts me that he actually makes fun of people's suffering. What do you think about this video? Share your opinion in the comments. See you.